Well, let's go to our
Oh
demonstration
my
10
God.
minutes early then.
Get out of here.
Hey,
Well, what's your freaking problem is?
okay, I'm going to try to not bump the camera this time.
Oh,
Good luck.
you're fine, Clayton.
I'm gonna way more than I probably have in the past. Hopefully, this is going to be the last time that I'm going to do a demo with a
Single
single
camera.
overhead camera. But tonight, that's actually kind of beneficial because 95% of what this project is watching that ghost line on the far edge. So I have little black foam core here to make it a little bit easier. I kind of wanted to go with something simple. So I figured tonight we could make a flower like this.
Sure, that's simple.
Yeah, it's
That looks great. Yeah.
yeah. This is Purple Heart and Maple. I learned on the first one to not use Purple Heart, so we're just gonna go, I think, Maple all the way through. But it surprisingly is very simple to do. I didn't say easy, but it is very straightforward. Every bit of this is going to be turned. And I tried to think of how to best visualize it, how to divide it, because it's rotated so many different times. It becomes a multi axis piece. Um, so I have a big square.
That's a
And
massive square.
all of these start with a square because the one that I just showed is eight sided. That is how I learned about it. The origin story is that one specifically comes from a turner called Onionwood on at least Instagram. I don't know if that's his real name. Um, I saw an account, his account, he had this as one picture of a today's our shop class, and I studied it. What it was to get this out of the way, was something like this. And it ends up being some kind of a flower, some kind of, I don't know, Art Deco trophy. And it just fascinated me. So I did what I could to figure out how to replicate that, and I got pretty close. If you go look at his page and see the kind of stuff that he does, it will absolutely blow you away because his multi-axis stuff is just unbelievable. So that one was
Is he
eight
is he
sides.
is
What?
he on YouTube, Clayton?
I don't know. I know he's got a video where somebody interviewed him. That's where I first heard about him. So that is a YouTube video, and it's, I don't know, probably 2 hours long, and it took
Okay.
me 2 or 3 months to be able to watch it because I kept pausing and rewinding and just being amazed.
And what was his name again?
Onionwood, just all one word.
Thank you.
So the original thing that I saw had eight on it, and I kind of built my way up. This is a six-sided one, and it ends up being more of like a trumpet flower kind of shape. And then the easiest one of them all is a four-sided one. And this is where everything kind of started to click for me because to be able to do this multi-axis, uh, it's easiest if you start from a square. The uh, the only problem is I don't know of any four-sided flowers that look like this. So eventually I started thinking, well, I turned spheres. So I have this gigantic Osage orange that I don't really have anything to mount with, but now it's artsy. So every different axis is useful. The only caveat is it has to be an even number. And that comes down to how these things first get laid out. So I'm going to start with just this demonstration whiteboard square. And all I've done so far is just go ahead and find the center. From there, you got to figure out if you want a four-sided, six-sided, or eight-sided. And tonight, I'm going to do just a six-sided one because once you seen me do 3 sides of it, you kind of get the idea. So there's no reason to do 8. But if you want to do a 4-sided one, congratulations, you're already done. If not, then you end up needing to make a hexagon. Making a hexagon from a square is actually kind of tricky. Making it from a circle, not so much. So I'm just going to get these spring dividers that have a point right in the center. I'm just going to drag all the way around. And now I've got a good chance to mark out the circle. Very, almost kind of sort of staying in the lines. And while I'm doing this, I'm sure I'm going to miss all kinds of different details. And if anybody has any questions, let me know, because I'm still learning this. This is not my technique. I haven't mastered it. I saw it in a picture and I'm doing the best I can to replicate it. So if you want to help me learn, I am happy to learn with y'all. Okay.
Sounds good, Clayton.
So this is a circle. I still have the original diameter from where I first scored it. All that takes is, I'm just going to start at an arbitrary point. I'm going to make a line right there. From there, I'm going to take the same radius. I'm just going to scribe a line right there where these two intersect. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to hop over here. Do it again. Do another one. And one last one. What should happen is if I go back to this one original one, they should line up, and that actually is pretty close. So the hole is here, and the final line is right there. You have these little intersecting lines. This is the same technique if you want to make like a 3-legged stool and you're trying to mark out those lines. But with that, you just skip every other one. You get your 3 evenly spaced. With this, it becomes even easier. Because you just go to every line. You connect each line. And at each intersection, you'll end up with a polygon. So simple geometry lesson.
You missed one line.
Oh, did I? That's how you make a horseshoe. Okay. Okay, somebody check my math. I'm gonna say it's good. So this is when you will take a block. I'm gonna use, for an example, this piece of 3x3 cherry. And this is when you can either, if you have a way to hold it securely and go across the bandsaw so that you can set your angles, what I'll do is I'll find wherever this goes and I will trace down it so that I can run it through. You can also just chisel it away, or disc sander is probably one of the safer ones, where you can even chisel away and then sand up to the line. But what you want is, at least for where you made the marks on the end, that needs to be as close to a hexagon as possible. If you get a little bit off as you come down, I think I marked both sides. Yeah, this one has a little bit shorter ends here. It's not great. It's not going to be that big of an issue as long as the main side, the front side, is relatively even as a hexagon. So we've done 6 sides. Everybody with me so far?
Sounds good.
Okay, because Also going to do 8 sides. And I noticed as soon as I said that, someone left, which that seems fair. So with 8 sides, it's easier to start with a square. The center I found, I honestly don't even know if it's going to be super important, but because if you take a ruler and all you really have to do is find, and this is conveniently exactly 6 inches, you just kind of angle it until it finds something that is actually divisible by 3, which is the interesting thing. You're taking a 4-sided thing and you want to make it into a 8-sided thing. So why would you need to divide it by 3? Well, that is, if you mark right there, I'm just going to do this real quick because 2 inches, 4 inches, if you take these outside corners, same thing, you just line them up and connect them. Now you have exactly where you need to cut off so that each segment is going to be the same length all the way around. Or much simpler. So I made this point and this point. I'm going to go ahead and darken them just to show. I'm so happy to be ready to be finished with the math lesson here. These points are where originally marked out. They're the ones that I mathed out with geometry. But if I take something like something that has a pencil on it, and all I'm going to do is get this original corner, just the height of the diagonal, and I swap it around to where the compass is now in the corner and the pencil is in the center, and I draw around, it gets close enough, which is all I'm really looking for. This isn't a perfect square, so it's not going to be great, but it's really not far off. And when you're talking at a certain scale like this, no one's ever going to be able to tell. No one's ever going to know. This one's just drawn out. This one's measured out and then kind of drawn poorly because the bandsaw marks. But whenever you get done with that, you end up with this kind of interesting shape. And this gets much easier to sand off or cut off. So once you have that, like I said, I'm going to go with a 6-sided piece tonight. You get some kind of hexagon shape, whatever the 3D version of a hexagon is. And finally, that is all the math and figuring out, and that's all you got to really do about it. The last part, just to set it up, I'm going to move this out of the way. So wherever the center marks originally were, I'm going to put these here. I'm going to make this one a little bit deeper so it's a little bit easier to center. But with all that technical info gone, you can either divide it right in the center or do what I did here and do it not quite 5/8 of the way. I'm a big fan of the golden mean, but it's not completely, like if this is 75%, it's not totally off, but you want it just a little bit off from center. Very specific reason for that is if I go back to the 4-sided example, that big Osage orange sphere fit pretty well. There's a nice gap between it. It's sitting on all 4 points. But if I take a regular size sphere that isn't gigantic, it actually ends up bottoming out. The reason is this one doesn't particularly go deep enough to be able to have it sit on all points without the radius or the diameter of the sphere needing to be just gigantically huge. So with all of this, the deeper that you can go, the better. The Same concept for dry brushing. The same concept for any kind of embellishment is you always need to carve a lot deeper than you first expect, because that's what creates the depth, the visual depth, along with the actual depth. So from there, that's all that this takes. I find the center of each face along this line, and this line should be it should run pretty true all the way across. Just grab a pencil, run it across, and then I'll just punch holes with a center punch in the middle of each flap. And then finally I get to the turning, which I don't know why I say finally. It's my first holiday season as, doing this like really full time, trying to do all the markets and stuff. You guys are joining me on the tail end of, I think, 5 weeks where I've been working 80 to 90 hours. So I'm actually really excited to just be able to slow down and share
Yeah,
this
good.
kind of project with y'all.
Smell the coffee brewing for a change.
All right. So I'm going to line up these two between center and kind of dig in a little bit. And this point, this point, this point, and this point, they're not even, but they are at least hopefully going to all be in a line. I'm going to spin it once because it's off center. I need to make sure I'm not going to hit the tool rest. And I'm just going to start it up. It's decently centered. So I'm going to move the tool rest just a little bit so that you can see, hopefully, in the shadow line. This is side grain turning. Most of the time, I'm going to use a piece of end grain, just because it has a little bit more structural strength once you get to the smaller flower part. And because it's interrupted turning, you kind of got to bump up the speed a little bit. I'm just going to start in the center. I'm going to work my way down a series of V cuts. The bad part about this, you are going to get tear out because this is a side grain cut. This is going to be technically the wrong direction against supported fiber. And I'm going to make very slow cuts because there is a lot of air in between these. Just stop and check my progress. Got a pretty nice groove here, and I am barely touching on this side. This actually needs to go ahead and be a good bit deeper. Profile here is not bad. I want it to be a little bit more rounded. So now that I know what I'm cutting, I can just touch the back of the tool, not cutting at all, and then back away so that when I do enter in, there's less of a chance of skating and kicking back. I'm going to swap to a spindle gouge because as I'm coming down deeper and deeper, I run the risk of, as I get closer to the center, this corner of the lower wing runs the risk of hitting the opposite wall. So this is just a little bit more swept back. I'm kind of picking away at this other side, but on this side, I am way deep. Should be plenty deep enough. There is a little bit of a step here and a little bit of tear out right there. I'm going to see if I can fix that. At least the tear out. The steps can be sanded. Nope, made it worse. But that's pretty much the entire step. This is, besides the bug hole, this is all that it takes. And so I'm just going to step and repeat all the way through. And as long as I can match the same depth that I did on this first one, then that's all that's necessary. I'm going to swap back over to ball gouge. I'm just watching that shadow line. And every time I get to the center point, I'm going to jump back and come from the other side. I don't know how well this will show up on camera, but I'm actually seeing another line taper down now. That is from the cut that I made before. So if I go to where those shadow lines make a point, then I know how far I need to go so that it matches up with the first one that I made. So as I'm watching the shadow line, I can tell that I just hit where I'll be starting to chip away on this other side. So it's a good time to stop and check and see how far down I am on this line, which not even close. I'm going to start way back here, make sure that I touch the back of the tool first. So this is, like I said, it's a simple project, but it's not necessarily easy because you've got to balance out the interrupted cutting. And the way that you handle that is with speed. But if you're not comfortable turning fast, when you're turning air and then wood and then air and then wood, it becomes more dangerous that way. So you can go slower and sand more, or you can go faster and have a little bit more risk than you might be comfortable with. So it just becomes a balance. I'm almost there on, I don't know if it's visible. There is 1/8 of an inch maybe left to go. And that is close enough. There's about a 16th. I have a pretty strong feeling this is why whenever he makes them, there's a hollowed out little section where the inside kind of masks whatever you didn't exactly get. Yeah, it blends it. But I'm going to get as close as I can. Closing the flute whenever I get to the center of it. And again, trying to remember to hold on to that curve. I'm just cresting in here. This is generally going to be a good time to sand, but you really got to be careful because if you oversand too much or if you power sand, where I'm getting this really crisp line all the way across here, that is going to go away and you are going to notice it in the final product. One of
the importance
best
of
things,
speed in the cut.
absolutely. And then the reason that I was handling bowl gouge first is because it can handle more weight of the impact. So it's going to be more structurally sound than a spindle gouge that might be jumping around a little bit. But with that, I honestly didn't expect this to kind of go this smoothly. I thought I would have to stop and check the depth a whole lot more. So maybe I should have done the 8-sided one.
Yeah, you look like you've done this a time or two, Clayton.
80-hour weeks. All I'm gonna say. The it is still fun because I made this for a friend in May, and I haven't really made any of them since. And then all of a sudden, there's a guy who kind of took a liking to me who's been doing pottery around this area for 50 years. So we've gotten together to talk business about, how to do the more artistic side of things around here. And that's what he is known for, is just flowers. He'll make ceramic flowers. And I said, oh boy, do I have a picture to show you. So that's kind of dictated this season a little bit more than I was expecting it would. Okay, so this is when it finally starts to look a little bit like what you were trying to make in the first place. I can see that because this looks taller than this, I'm going to need to spend a little bit more time on the left side, but I also need to be a little bit careful because this point isn't quite as high as the others. The most likely thing is, and this should be able to center back up easily, so I should be able to show it. Right here, I have this little dimple pretty well centered, but on the other side, you see how where the stem center jaws dig in a little bit more over here than over here? That is what's going to give me bigger on one side than the other. As far as I know, there isn't a great solution for that, but actually there is one solution. There is only one solution that I found. It's when someone asks about it, go, have you ever seen something perfectly even in nature? Go find me a flower with, every petal down to the millimeter. And then, honestly, you just sound pretentious. And then they just kind of quit arguing with you.
Right. Yeah. Just ask them to explain that 4-leaf clover.
Exactly. So the first one, it doesn't really matter what you do. You just kind of go for it. The second one, you kind of want to get as close as possible. And then with this third one, it's going to be worth it to go ahead and take your time as you ease down into it. And this should be one of the last passes. I'm good on my outer diameter, my width. I'm just remembering to curve in for this final pass. Like I have something on the spindle gouge that, like a flat spot on the cutting edge. Just for this, I'm going to bump the speed up a little bit more.
Clayton, what size spindle gouge? Is that 1/4 inch or is that 1/2 inch?
This is a 1/2 inch. This is,
Okay.
I want to say Hamlet. One of the Sheffield ones. Doesn't have a label because I got one off Amazon one time. I liked it, so I kept ordering it. But I'm decently sure
Inlet
it's
or
either.
crown?
No, it's crown. Thank you. It is supposed to be crown. The first one I got, actually, I still have it around here somewhere, had a different handle on it. So I was a little bit worried I got sent a fake, but they handled just the same. And I don't know. I've been really getting comfortable with that, almost more than bowl gouge. So right now, I'm actually deeper on this one than I am any of the others. One of the good parts about using a blank of a certain length compared to these smaller ones is that as you go deeper and deeper on the smaller ones, you actually lose your line. But because I still have this, I can recenter it if I really need to clean up any of these points. So now I'm back in, I guess, the second one that got done. And yeah, now they all meet pretty decently evenly. Now is the part where if you want to sand it, now would be a good time. But instead of making you all watch sanding, I'm going to swap over to a slightly different section. I'm making a center point right where all of these points meet. And then on here, there's still the place where the lab center got marked out to begin with. But there are all these little notches. Now, I doubt I'm going to be able to get it with this one just because of how small these notches are, but there is a secret benefit. If you were to take one, for example, this trumpet flower example, and the way that this was turned was out of one of those smaller blanks, well, you end up getting more ridges cut out of both of them. So what you end up with is kind of a bonus flower. And this one you can turn pretty thin, and it's a little bit easier to get at the underside for whenever you're ready to mount the stem. The purple heart one that I had earlier, it had a bonus flower. So this was the main one, and there's not really any difference other than 8 points to 6 points. So you can kind of see where it starts to take shape. But
Right.
on the underside, with all the notches taken out, I was able to get another little bonus flower. And I took a piece of elm and just made a little disc. I don't even know. These are drilled out with 5/16, 3/8, something through the center, but that didn't even matter because then you just have to sand it a little bit more, and you get, I don't know, a daisy. I don't know. I'm not a phlebotomist. I think the 8-sided ones. This one was meant to be a lily, but I looked it up, and 8-sided and 6-sided plants or 6-petaled plants aren't super common. They, for having evenly spaced ones, they actually are really only daffodils, lilies, and asparagus. Yeah,
Asparagus.
that last one kind of threw me. So I'm going to swap this over to a kind of a bigger lab center or bigger cone center. I'm going to have this line up to this, and it should run pretty decently true. Especially because I'm using the original hole from when I first lined it up. Okay, so while I'm doing this, any questions or anything? Because I'm sure I've missed something or
So-
they're...
So Clayton, there's a question asked, if it was mounted in the center instead of off the side, would you not get two identical flowers? I think this is in reference to the high spot on one side
Yes.
and low spot on the other.
Yes. So that is what I started doing. Started marking them out right in the center. But what I like doing, besides getting the knot out of the way, what I like doing is this gives me a chance to go a lot deeper with the offset turning part so that what's more pronounced in the petals shows up better. But yes,
Right
you
on.
can
Okay.
do identical flowers. What I would love to be able to do, and I'm not entirely sure how I would do it, but I would love to be able to do one that is 10-sided, just something crazy like a 10-sided and then like a 16-sided one um, from the same
For a good
blank,
sized chunk of wood.
right?
Yep.
If I could make them both thin like this and then layer them, put like I did with the purple heart bonus flower, the take this, but
Right,
instead
right,
of elm, make it, something black. You could do
right.
blackwood, you could dye it, and then you would have a really big sunflower. So that would be enjoyable, at least. I'm not entirely sure how it would work or if it would work, but
Wow, I
so
really like the layering idea. I think that that's a huge option.
it's
So,
Yep.
fun. I feel
yeah,
like I'm growing a garden because I started with one idea and then it sprouted, and like all the
Hey, it's
metaphors are just kind
sprouted,
of writing themselves.
right? Yeah, they
I,
just write
I,
themselves,
I,
don't they?
yeah, I would point out that a sunflower is like 90% seeds. So it's
Oh, okay. So then that means somebody needs to make one of those and do a collaboration with Dixie Biggs. Have you seen her peppercorns that look like
yeah, yeah,
actual
yeah,
peppercorns?
yeah,
Ooh.
yeah.
See, there you go. This is the kind of project that I like doing because it's fun and you can tell an idea is fun whenever it starts having its own ideas.
Right. Starts
Okay.
morphing. Has little children and grandchildren.
Have you this is very off topic, but like I said, I'm kind of mentally fried from the other turning, so I'm just enjoying getting to hang out with friends while I'm turning. Um, have you
Yeah.
guys heard about how exponential tomatoes grow? Like you start with one plant and then you end up with like 15,000 just from like the third generation of seeds.
Yep. That's just from the
So,
ones that survive.
Let a squash grow wild. You'll have more squash and you know what to do with.
Right. Cu- Cucumber.
and I thought the only thing that really did more than you ever thought you needed was like chickens. Can't tell you how many friends I've had that started out, hey,
Rabbits.
we're having our own eggs, and then like 6 months later, it's please take our eggs. We don't know what to do with them.
Uh-huh.
So right now, I'm just smoothing this out while it's between thinners because it'll just go into a chuck. The measurements aren't super crucial, super necessary, so I am gonna eyeball them, and I'm gonna make a few different steps just because the chuck will hold what the chuck holds, and rather be prepared for that. Almost there. I'm going to taper it in just a little bit. Knockout bar. So, nah, I don't like that. So, if you ever are throwing a chuck onto the spindle, at the end, it's always going to be best if you give it just a little, let's do back a little flick just to make sure all the threads seat. That way you don't have to worry about it unthreading, spinning off, causing something from a horror movie to happen. And then, yeah, these should be perfect. In order to hold on to a tendon, you want the chuck to be almost completely shut with the jaws. That'll make for a better hold, more secure hold, and then if it's all centered up, that's why I left the lab center in there, then it makes it easier in case you need to help the alignment. Some of the stuff out of the way because tailstock isn't really necessary anymore. So with this one, the options are going to be, you can either make it a flower with, tapered petals, or you can just taper under. This is the style that onion wood does, and it makes it look interesting. It doesn't make it look necessarily flowery. So start with one, and because it'll start with the same shape, and then see about tapering it under. Like I said, whenever I did it with Purple Heart to begin with, it was chippier than I wanted it for it to be. Just for the ease and simplicity, I'm gonna
What? With both hands? No way.
What? Oh, you mean this?
No, one hand. All right.
That is probably the
Attaboy.
riskiest cut I have ever made before.
You pulled it off. Good job.
Oh yeah, this night could have gone a whole lot differently in that 2 seconds. Okay, so this is, I got one little bug hole right here. That's what you get for getting this particular species of maple is called I Got It Down the Street.
Uh-huh.
So it shouldn't affect the final, because I'm actually going to go all the way up to the corner. You guys remember 2 weeks ago whenever Kirk was talking about spinning razor blades or razor's edge that are going to cut you if you get too close to it? That is what each one of these points are.
Mm-hmm.
As I taper down, I'm going to need to be really careful about this, because that is, I mean, it just looks like a torture device if you aren't careful. Like each one of these
Yeah.
I've had to sand by hand multiple times just to make sure that I'm still safe while I'm turning these things. So I'm going to pick an arbitrary point, maybe around there. I'm going to start angling in. Full rest is still a little bit high from where the skew was. So then, not going to get right up to the corner yet. But I'm going to establish the curve that I want to follow. Felt like something jumped. I'm just going to make sure the chuck is as tight as it can be. And from here, you can start to see the flower or the original inspiration shape taking shape. Before I get too much further down here, though, I do need to make room in the center. And that comes in two forms. Technically, since this is end grain, you need to be a little bit careful how you do this. I'm going to start with the bevel just barely touching, and I'm going to go in. But this is like you're hollowing end grain, so you might not get the best surface. You can grab spindle gouge, try to back hollow it. And that'll be okay, but because it's so interrupted, you're going to get a good bit of tear out. And I know we're doing top down tonight, so it's not incredibly visible. You can take my word for it. It is, ooh, that's rough. So what I like to do is I have this carbide cutter from Hunter Tools, and this starts in the center and it works its way out. And it's just an incredibly clear cut. That's all it really needs. One pass. It is. It's a yeah, it's carbide, but it's a cup cutter, so it actually slices rather than scrapes. And it is very stable that way because the cut that I need to make is so steep, and this is like a, hold on, where did my blackboard go? This is maybe an 85 degree angle. So what that lets me do is, if you've ever seen Ray Key's spindle gouge where it's a very steep angle and shear, it's the same purpose. But what that lets me do is start completely flute closed basically, but I'm still rubbing the bevel. That's what gives me the contact and the control while I'm making an interrupted cut. Especially while it's turning in the center, it's very slow. So I can take the cut and open it because it's all round and the angle doesn't really change. So it's a very safe way to open the flute and then just swing the outside of the handle. And the more that I swing around here, this follows the same arc, but it turns at a much slower radius. So if I swing all the way around here, I get a perfect curve all the way around it, still riding bevel the whole time. Makes it very safe. And then, but there can be on some of these corners where it's coming around, there can be some tear out here, some torn grain. This is the part where I'm just going to grab just a little bit of sandpaper. It'll take a little while to get rid of those ridges. But this, a little bit of this, and a little bit of on the inside. I don't want to touch this edge because I want this corner to be pretty crisp, but that's all it is. You break this edge, flatten this face, and then you slightly round over the other edge. And then I don't really need to do anything on this side because I'm not entirely done cutting it. But what I am going to do next is go ahead and drill my hole through and that's just going to start it. I'm going to drop this out of the way so that I have something to anchor my hand on. And I'm just going to do this while it's spinning. I'm going to drop the speed. I'm going to let it find the center. I'm just going to push in. I'm going to clear it every 3/8 of an inch or so. And I think I drilled to maybe around here. I'm actually not sure because it conveniently doesn't really matter. That is just for the mounting later whenever it's time to add either a second one of these or this little onion shape. Hey, maybe that's what, never mind. So the rest of this is just going to get eased into the shape that I'm looking for. This is still interrupted turning, so I'm going to go a little bit fast. Here, still the lower point, a little bit higher of a point. It'll look like you kind of missed some points or something here. Once you're done with it, you won't be able to tell. This is a pretty decent curve, pretty decent finish, but I am still going to knock off the edge, knock off the edge. I have enough tiny little nicks and bruises and scrapes. Let me know however much time this takes is worth it because it's less time than running to go get a band-aid. So at this point, if you want to go for the flower shape, this is when this is actually slightly undercut, but you would come straight in and treat it like any other cove. So you would just follow the curve, and then it would eventually match up to this other curve that you made, and that's how you get this OG shape. You can undercut it if you want. The Purple Heart kind of tore out on me with this. But that is first the outside curve, and then the inside curve, and then you just have a meet. And that's really all it is to make that kind of a shape. And take a little bit more material down. But I also need to remember that I have I think it's a 5/16 hole. I think that's the drill bit I just used. I have a 5/16 hole all the way through the center. So if I want to do anything fancy down here at the bottom, I need to account for that in the wall thickness. You can see kind of towards the end of the bonus flower how I left it. I drilled the hole through and then just made it a cylinder, tapered in a little bit so that whenever I try to part it off or whenever I try to do whatever I'm going to do to this one, I have a little place that registers so that I'm not trying to saw or using the oscillating tool, just kind of blindly and getting a very drunken line with it. I think for this one, I'm going to stick with a little bit closer to this original one, and I'm just going to taper it in a little bit. This is the 3/8 spindle gouge that has the convex back. So while I'm here in this corner and the flute's completely closed, I'm just going to raise it up, kind of float it just a little bit. I'm going to come back down. That should do is give me a pretty, well, I don't know about even, but a pretty small bead. And then I can just continue to, well, once I speed up the lathe, I can continue to taper down from there. Now from here, actually, this is a really good opportunity because I have so much of this material out of the way. What I can do, come under this, and undercut it, keeping in mind that I have that very small wall thickness to account for the hole. As long as I'm going under a certain RPM, I can just fling down and not run way up at me, which is what it did. So right now I have this kind of torn out piece right here. It's not bad. This is usually, before you part this off, this is a good time to finish sanding it and put any kind of sealer on it that you need. But this tear out is kind of an issue. There's a solution for it though. These are, look at this. I'm enjoying this foam board. These
are too.
are shear countersinks. So they have a hole going all the way through them, and that's what makes this kind of weird shape. And what it does is, if you have a normal countersink that's fluted, it's going to tear up the wood in some species and in some configurations. Plywood, it tears it out really bad. This is actually really gentle. So I'm just going to hold this in my hand. This is why I knocked off all the points. What I would really suggest is you take it somewhere where you are not on camera. You're going to give it a few hits.
Look at that.
Because it's a very sheer cut, it's going to take away most of the issues that you're going to have. And
I've never seen one of them.
These come in a 4-pack. They come in different sizes. I think these are, the yellow is always going to be like titanium nitride or something. But Amazon, $15. It is incredible. So I'm going to hold it down a little bit more. It's not aggressive either, so it's not like you can really go too deep. But
yeah, it's not like a step drill.
right. So this is one of those moments of, hold on, I had something for this. So this is a piece of Bradford pear that it's got some figure to it, which means it's also got some torn grain to it. So I didn't know what I was going to do with it. It's not bad. It's got some vice jaw marks, but all you gotta do, you can either stick it on there just straight, or if you round it over, you just attach it here, and I'll super glue it and I'll just hold it. What that ends up doing is, to go back to this original example that my mom was very gracious enough to let me borrow, I just filled it with epoxy, filled it with whatever. I actually ended up making a collar out of the same wood so that it would fit in, so that it would be easier to countersink. But yeah. So this being curved means that it sits at an angle. Whatever you make this out of, because I know I make vases and I don't really have anything to put in them, but whatever you make, just anticipate that you're going to need a longer stem than this one. Because whatever this is going to be heavier, and so it's going to be top heavy, and it's going to want to fall over. But it's a really good way to use very, very small spindle stock. And then lastly,
Clayton, you should make a ball and socket for it. That way it rotates.
that is a really good idea. I thought I had one. Yeah. So earlier I was practicing for this, and yeah, the trumpet flower has exactly that. It's just kind of rounded out a little bit, not drilled all the way through, because I wanted to see if that would be possible.
Nice.
I'll do the 5/16 pretty frequently because, well, that's the same thing for bottle stopper jigs and the worm screw that I have. All of that is, you drill a 5/16 pilot hole. So you can end up, this is what a small one looks like to begin with, and you can see the notches on both sides. That turns into this. This one has got a pretty steep, I don't know, I guess that'd be the head, so it goes this way. But in this one bonus flower, it just slots in there. And now you've got, so you make a big one and you make a small one. And all this does is I'll put this into smaller jaws, feed it in, and then what I'll do here is pour some glue, some just super glue or whatever in here, hit it with the accelerator, and then it won't bleed out on the other side. You can do this with the little onion shapes. You can do this with, a second one of these offsets. You can really do it out of anything, and what you end up with is the full and complete flower. So what questions are there? Because I know I'm shortcutting a lot of this, and a lot of this has been trial and error for me. So if I can get ahead of somebody trying something and saying, gee, I wish I had known, I'd be happy to.
So Brenda, you asked a question. I'm not seeing what you're asking. Ask Clayton your question.
Was actually not a question, but more of a comment. The corners that you cut off of the original 3x3 square,
Yes.
maybe you could use those for the stem.
Ooh, you are touching on a very, very failed experiment. I was trying this earlier, and what I would love to be able to see is something. Oh, I'm not going to have a good example because they all snapped. What I was trying to do is try to figure out if I could do, how sometimes gosh, I don't remember this from like 8th grade science class. Is it the stamen? Is that the thing that's on the inside that sticks out? And it's just tiny little ones. Yeah. So if I cut off, like from this one, this, and then I made it into its own little turning blank, I was starting to wonder if this would be the perfect thing for it. Because what I'm starting to realize is the stem actually needs to be way longer than I would expect. And so for something like this, it's pretty significantly longer.
Sure,
But I love where you're thinking because, using these corners to do something else in the flower, great idea. I hadn't thought about that as the stem though. So I really like that. But I can take a second to
Can I show a picture really quick?
Please do.
Are we okay with that, Dane?
Yeah, that's fine. Real quick.
So I turned these and I use dowels as the stem.
Whoa.
And on the inside, I carved the stamen. This is just the dowel that goes all the way up through here. And I just carved up the end as the stamen here. So that's also an option.
That is okay. Yeah. See, this is the thing. This is why I'm telling you, I have so much fun with these things because that is when we're done with the stream and I have been slept for the next 3 weeks. That is going to be one of the first things that I try. I'm telling y'all, like this has been the best thing where I have demos that I'm planning for next year, which am I going to get in trouble if I make the shameless plug of if you have a club and want me to do a demo where I actually am fully prepared and fully like have jokes ready and some of them are even good to just to let me know to get me on the schedule. Like I said, thanks to some very good Black Friday deals, I'll soon have a much better camera setup, so I can do IRDs or in person. But
Yeah.
for now, it's just I like getting ideas from y'all. I get
Hey, you know what? Actually, I was really happy before you cut that top off. I thought that base was just a gorgeous thing that was going to happen.
okay. So something more
He ain't
like
done yet, folks.
I'm not.
No, I understand.
Yeah, I kind of thought I was
Go ahead,
kind of
Clayton.
getting done.
Nope, not done. Not
Oh
you're
gosh.
not you're not done until Dane says you're done.
So does anybody have the second page of what I was expected to do?
I thought there was a page 2.
Don't ask me how I know that.
It's
Yeah, it's just one of the things that happens, Clayton, is the scope of your demo expands on the fly.
yeah, pages 3 to 5 of my handout just say notes, and it's just blank pages after that.
Huh.
No,
Can I
don't
ask a
forget that he's
question?
going to be a demonstrator
Please
at
do.
Level Up also. Just saying.
Right. And we'll be able to see stuff like we'll be able to see something, not necessarily this, but we could in the freestyle events or in the after hours of Level Up. But Clayton's going to be doing his garden fairy
Man,
demonstration, or I should
Yep.
say, coaching and learning you how to build and prepare and turn it up at Level Up. So
I am so excited for that too, because
So
the number one thing that I thought I was going to be excited about is making it. But then, whenever I did my practice demo in the summer preparing for SWAT, somebody came in the next month with a fairy that they had made, and then the next month was one, and it was as heartwarming as it was idea inspiring. So no,
right,
I'm really looking forward
yeah,
to
I
that.
bet.
somebody had a question.
want to ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
Did somebody have a question?
Yes. One of our lady turners had a question.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So where'd she go?
I don't know.
Sandy,
Might
did you
have
have a
been me.
question?
Might have been me. I
Sue?
Okay.
I
Ask.
don't. This is amazing. This is beautiful. But how would you? What would you turn that into? Like, would you do like a bouquet or?
Okay, for this one, I'm going to tell you Onionwood's Instagram channel again. The guy, I may have gotten the translation wrong, just with the YouTube captions for that one interview. But from what I understand, he shut down his shop for 2 or 3 years just to be able to master this kind of off-axis turning. His entire Instagram is just full of ideas on ideas. There are hollow forms where this becomes the finial. So from out of here, this onion shape becomes the tall finial.
Oh my.
There are some of them are knobs, and when I say like you have to go way deeper than you expect, here's my version 1 from May. Whenever I was doing this, it was because the Purple Heart one is for Mother's Day. So this one was one that I did in May. This one was yesterday and today, and you can see the depth difference. I'm not making this up. He has one that is as tall as this, and it's the legs just go all the way up. So it looks like, I don't know, almost like one of those pond skaters that have the really long legs that just kind of come to tiny little points on the water.
Hey,
It is
hey,
unbelievable.
You know, Clayton.
Yes, sir.
One thing that actually that we could all think about. You could make this at any size. I mean, it could be 4 inches. It could
Absolutely.
be, and that would make it just so great. I mean, it doesn't have to be the size that you're showing us right now, but I mean, you could make that and way you showed it at a lot of different sizes.
Yeah, absolutely. The
And
reason that I started with this,
that would make it so great for so many different projects.
absolutely. The reason I started with a 3x3 blank on some of these is because whenever you need to divide it by 3, makes the math real easy. But beyond that, it could be anything you want, any different shape. Like I said, once you start in this kind of garden, it's just going to keep growing itself. Okay. Any other questions? Because I know whenever I first started looking into this, I had ones that I didn't even know how to phrase or ask.
I think these are beautiful, but I think it's above my ability.
I
Amazing.
bet you'd surprise yourself because
I'd have so many explosions.
I thought I
No,
would
no,
too.
no, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
It was very simple what he did. Pay
Yes, he did
attention
make
to
it
the
very
guy. No,
simple.
no, you could do it. You
You
could do it.
absolutely can do it. If I can do
It,
it,
it
then
was
yeah,
no,
you can do it.
no, you could do it. You could do it.
I know she could do it.
Yeah, I can make ink pens too, but I blew up 3 of the day.
It doesn't matter if you're not blowing anything up, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah, no one
There you
wants to be in a
go.
lonely funnel club.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's not that thin to blow up. You got more meat in that.
It's
Yeah.
really not. This is like this one has
I
the
love
5/16 hole, and it is just solid all the way through.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yep. Somebody said earlier, this is one of those videos that we're going to be watching over and over again, and I'm one of the watchers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hit repeat. Back up. What was that? Wait a minute.
So
You lost me. Back up.
I put the interview with the Onionwood guy in chat and a link to his Instagram, so y'all can explore
Thank
that
you.
if you want. So thanks,
So,
Clayton.
I just saw Tim just say something and even make a box out of it. Yeah, that would be so many different ways to do that.
Thank you for that, Tim.
That would be
Wait.
something. I mean, look at that. Yeah, that would be something, Tim.
No, this would be
You could make the
wonderful for that.
flowers. You could set the flowers in resin.
No, I'm sorry. I'm talking about like 4, 5, 6 inches wide, and yeah, Tim, that would be a great idea.
I'm gonna try to have that for show and tell next time. That is a great idea. I have a blank that I had roughed out already, and
Yeah, like 5, 6 inches wide.
something like this, and then you're just gonna part it off, and then this becomes the lid. And okay, see, you guys got my brain going way too much.
No,
Yeah.
no.
The top
This
of the
is why I
box.
show
Your
up. I
hand,
love
it's
these
2
ideas.
inches wide. I'm talking about 5 and 6 inches wide.
And that means because
Knock
I'm
yourself
not
out,
understanding,
Al.
that means
What's
I got
that?
everybody's mind turning.
So will you
Look
show
forward
me
to
what,
seeing it
what
next
you mean
week.
next week?
Yep.
No. I'm not asking for anything next week. I'm just thinking about ideas. What you showed can be what you have in your hand is 2 inches in your hand. I'm talking about making something 5 and 6 inches wide, doing it the same way.
See, and that's what
Yeah,
I'm
you,
saying.
you
You
certainly
got to show
could,
me what
Al.
you're talking
that's what
about
Tim
because
is
it sounds like
talking
a great
about.
idea.
I think that's what Tim was talking about. Make a whole complete box and bowl out of it.
Yeah, I love that idea. Yeah, but
You could layer a couple together to make your box lid too, Al.
You're limited by the swing of your lathe,
look,
though.
look. I just found the idea right now. I'm just talking. You know? Come on, give me a break. But I think it's a great idea.
Clayton, what are you going to do with the piece you got on the lathe now then?
oh, thank you for that. That is a great segue into a thing that I totally forgot to do. I haven't quite
Okay.
figured out how I want to do this yet, but this is just a piece of I don't know, baseball bat billet or something with 5/16 dowel,
Uh-oh.
and it's kind of variable. It'll kind of squeeze in there. It doesn't run completely true all the time, but this piece that I just made, if I'm really stuck with it, then this ends up feeding on here so that it kind of runs true. Again, this is one where the closer to even all the petals can be, the better. But then little bit of super glue on the corners where it won't matter, and then you can really get that domed curve if you need it. Or you can sand it if you want to do the undercut part. Across here, it makes it a little bit easier to access it, just in case you didn't get it on the first try, like I
Okay.
didn't here.
Yeah, that looks like it'd be easier to make that cove in there.
Yeah, it gives
See,
you a
that's
little
why
bit
I
more
was saying the
access.
demo wasn't done with, because it looked like he was ready to finish tightening up the bottom of that flower base.
I was preparing for what I thought was going to be the inevitable question, and I'm glad you asked it then, because I completely forgot to bring it up as a footnote, because this is what happens. Somebody mentions something, then my brain just starts going, "Ooh, what if?"
All right.
Down the
We're here to
rabbit hole.
remind.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay,
Turned
so
upside down like that, it almost looks like an alternative to your fairy skirt.
Oh my
True.
gosh.
True.
Okay,
Alternative method. Look at that.
fairy skirt.
that is
Yeah, so
I'm so glad I don't have a front-facing camera right now, so you don't see how high up my eyebrows are. But that got the wheels cranking, because I've been trying to figure out an interesting thing for like Christmas angel ornaments.
There you go.
There you go.
Yep. See, now you don't have to use a burl. You can use something else and do that.
Yeah. Oh, my level up preparation just got very specific.
That looks like
our
a
wood requirements.
Hey, Clayton. Hey, Clayton.
Yes, sir.
Ta-da!
Clayton, if you paint it green, then it can be the naughty elf skirt.
Oh my gosh. Because what was the thing? Somebody said that if you did piercing on the fairy, it'd look like a snowman in drag. So then you go with that, and then you go with the elf skirt. Like, I'm just making Santa's village that we don't talk about.
Yeah, we
You
don't
guys
know
are
what
best.
Santa
Okay.
gets up to in the off months.
Hollow it out a little bit. You can use it for a hat.
There you go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, could be a fairy hat.
You know what? Clayton,
Peter Pan's hat.
yeah, just you know what?
A mermaid hat.
That's pretty cool. There's so many
You could even
ideas
make a
that you can
top
make
out
out
of
of that. Yeah, there's
You
so
can even
many
make a
ideas
top
that you
out
can
of it.
make from that.
Oh my gosh, I need to start writing down all of this.
Yeah, you do.
Well, it is being recorded, so all you got to do is rewatch it.
Oh, that's fair. Oh, I have
Dave
my first
records
video that I'm
everything.
going to need to go back and
Dave.
watch, like I did with the Onion Wood interview.
Yeah.
That's a fun milestone.
I do it a lot.
For sure. Well, if folks,
Hey, you
does anybody else have any?
You
Go
could
ahead.
use that as a soft-boiled egg cup if you hollow it
There
out
you
a
go.
little more,
Right, there you go.
Oh,
right?
that is
There's
exactly
a lot of
it.
things. There's a lot of things. Well, it's the technique that you showed us, Clayton, was the best thing, and and you know what? That was very entertaining, very enjoyable.
I think we're going to
Thank you.
see
I
a
appreciate
lot
that.
of variations of this
The
in the
technique
near
that you
future.
showed us was very nice.
I agree, Brenda.
That's so encouraging. Yeah, no, I'm excited to see what everybody else makes from this. That's going to be my favorite part. I can already tell.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to cost you $1,000.
Yeah.
Will you take a personal check that will bounce?
Yes,
Guaranteed.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank y'all.
Great demo, Clayton.
Great demo. Thank you.
Very enjoyable evening. Sure.
Love
very
watching
enjoyable
you.
evening.